This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeremy Wolf.
Hello, friends, family, community, great universe. Welcome, everyone, to the Good Neighbor Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Wolf, and today I'd like to welcome to the show, we have Sofia Robirosa. Hope I got the pronunciation right. And Sofia joins us with Infinite Therapeutic Services. And I am excited, truly excited to get into this, to learn more about what you do, because whether or not people think it or not, everybody could use a little therapy every once in a while. We're all human beings. We're all flawed, and we're all on this journey together, and we all have ups and downs. So anytime I could talk to somebody that is truly involved as a business to help other people at the fundamental level, it's always interesting to get into that. So Sofia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeremy.
No, it's our pleasure. And thanks, as always, to our listeners for tuning in. So with all that being said, tell us a little bit about your business, Infinite Therapeutic Services. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we are a team of licensed marriage and family therapists, and also we have a school psychologist. So we provide mental health counseling, therapy, and also testing for children and college students. That's what the school psychologist does. That's what she specializes in. So we started in March of 2014. So this year was our 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So the name of the business, Infinite Therapeutic Services, came from the belief that when we do good, the impact is infinite, right? So we believe that by helping somebody in this community, by helping them feel in a better place, that has a rippling effect, right? Because then their relationships get better, then those people feel in a better place, and that expands throughout the community, right? So that's where the name came from. So we're here located in Plantation. We also offer services virtually for all residents of Florida. Plantation is very near to Cooper City, so just a few minutes away. And so all of us specialize in relationship counseling and have secondary specialties of different nature. So we can provide the services to children through adulthood in individual, couples, or family formats.
Something what you said there just resonated with me on such a deep level about putting out that positivity and having a rippling effect. It really does. One thing I've noticed as I get older, all right, we're all, like I mentioned at the top of the show, we're all human beings. We're all fundamentally flawed to some degree, and we have all of our emotions, and things just seem to get better in every possible way when you start framing everything with in a positive light and start putting out positive energy out into the universe. And it just seems to, like you said, almost spiral out of control in a positive direction when you treat everything with love and compassion and empathy and understanding, and try to avoid as much as possible all those negative emotions that we're also triggered by. So how did you, let's go back. How did you get into this? Is this career path? Is this something that you had a passion for when you were young? Did you have a childhood experience that maybe sparked an interest in this field? Talk a little bit about your journey that led you up to starting Infinite Therapeutic Services back in 2014.
Yeah, so, well, I always was very interested in how people connect. We all have those experiences in school, maybe our own personal family stories. And that made me very curious about the idea of how we feel that we belong, right? My parents, when I was younger, did not really support me in the idea of being a therapist. There were those people that did believe that counseling was not for everybody, but for those that maybe really were quote unquote crazy, those old beliefs around therapy. So it wasn't something that I jumped straight after high school, but I definitely made a career choice after believing in my own independence as a young adult, and that I could do and pursue my own dreams. Now they are proud of me after seeing that the effect that it can have in people and really changing their ideas around that. So I influence them positively in that way. So I can say that it definitely has been on my mind. I was fascinated by psychology classes and really interested in how people, connect with others and how they feel good in their own skin, right? So when you ask me about an impact, so I did have that interest, but then my parents' relationship hit some hardships when I was a late teen. And I really got into a place of feeling confused about that because I felt that their relationship was good. I did grow up with a lot of friends that their parents were divorced or, multiple times married and things like that. And so I thought I was lucky, right? I thought I was lucky my parents were still together and that overall, it felt like a happy home. You don't know what you don't know. And then, they started having some relationship issues that ended in a separation when I was 19. So that further encouraged my desire to learn how relationships work, right? Like how we really belong, how do we troubleshoot conflict or places of hardship in the relationship. So that propelled my desire to focus in psychology around marriage and family issues. So not everybody knows, but in psychology, there's several different branches that you can specialize here in the United States. And one of them is marriage and family therapy. So it doesn't mean that we can't work with individuals too. It means that we work in a systemic way, right? Like we see the overall picture. So yes, it helps us work with couples and families. And then if we work with individuals or when we work with individuals, we look at the whole context environment of the person to understand where maybe they are coming from, the history of that person, how their worldview was created throughout their life, right? So to help them pick up from there and start working on the changes that they want to see in their own life. So that's a little bit of the story as to how I got fascinated with this. So my career began in 2009. I worked, as a dependent for about 5 years, and then I jumped into my practice in 2014. And that was a goal always to open my own shop. And little by little, we progressed into a group practice. For the first few years, I was a solo practitioner, and then it made sense to start adding people. And like I said, we are a team now of 6 with a school psychologist, and all with a focus of helping people transform their lives and their relationships.
Yeah, communication is so key in obviously in everything in relationships. And one of the things that I've come to learn in now being with my wife for, gosh, it's been 14 years married. Well, getting old. So, but we used to, there's certain things, certain topics when you're with somebody all the time that just seem to trigger you sometimes. And you put up these walls and you have your ego, a pesky ego getting in the way. And one of the things that I've learned to do is whenever I do get triggered by something, to take a step back and try to reset my thinking. Because oftentimes what I find is that when I clear my head from all the negative thoughts and emotions, there's usually some deep insight that my partner, my wife is providing to me about how I am as a person, that I have walls up around that. And that's why I got triggered in the first place. It's something I don't like about myself. And by really kind of focusing inward and thinking about that, I'm able to make forward progress in myself, in my life. And that's something that I've just come into after, I always say on the north side of 40, I'm 44 now, going back 5-10 years, like I wouldn't be talking about any of this stuff. This is just something that you learn as you go through life. So really, really fascinating, the dynamic between couples and relationships. What are some of the most common myths or misconceptions that you typically hear from your patients?
Yeah, well, just like I was saying about my own parents, right? That they thought that psychology was about working with quote unquote the crazy, which is interesting because I'm from Argentina originally, and we are known for everybody has a therapist. Therapy over there, psychology is a huge field, and there's a lot of psychologists. But yeah, just like my parents, a lot of people still hold sometimes the idea that therapy is only for quote unquote the crazy. And I really dislike even saying that word. I cringe when I think about it, right? Because therapy is not necessarily just about a diagnosis, right? Whether you have it or not, of course, it can be something that you need based on a diagnosis, but simply it can be a place for you to feel safe to talk with somebody about picking up some tools that help you with something in your life to enhance your relationships, as you were saying, and just to change a behavior that you want to do differently, right? You're talking about those walls, those barriers. Ultimately, we all want to feel safe, and sometimes the walls come as a mechanism to feel safe, right? To, that has in a way maybe worked to help you feel safe, and then maybe that wall doesn't feel that it's working as much anymore. And so therapy can be a place to break down the walls and to do something different to achieve that same result of feeling safe, right? To feel safe, and safety means a lot of different things, right? As feeling connected with others in relationships, and simply just feeling like we belong and that we're feeling good in our skin, right? So I would say that is the biggest misconception of counseling. So I think is definitely evolving and changing. COVID had a big flip around that. There were some big people that they, talking about go to therapy, seek help through those times, because we were all going through a traumatic time through COVID, because everything was stripped away from us, with not being able to leave your house and all of that. Those were massive changes that we had to adapt to, and so I think that really really helped people to start seeing therapy in a different light, and seeking services as needed for light things or not so light things, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and I encourage anyone out there who has that worldview of, like you said, therapy being for crazy people, whatever that is, right? To kind of zone out and take a bird's eye look at your own situation. And everybody is in need of therapy to some degree. And whether you go and seek outside help for it, or you're calling a good friend of yours to vent about a difficult day you had, I mean, that is what it is. And sometimes it pays dividends to have another perspective, an outside perspective, somebody that maybe doesn't know you so well, that could take a look at it from another position and really give you some valuable feedback on things that you could do better in your life.
Yeah, that's the difference for therapy. Is it's a safe place, it's confidential. You don't know that person in your day-to-day life, so it's very objective, and there's no emotional ties there to that person, right? So it can really feel different. And even people at times, they feel like, we've talked about this 1,000 times outside of therapy, right? But just having that conversation with a third party person that is not related to you and all of that can bring a different perspective to a topic that you have talked about maybe 1,000 times with other people.
Yeah, for sure. So shifting for a second from work to family. Family is often a driving factor for many, many people. I myself, I have a 10-year-old son, 12-year-old daughter, at that stage where everything is starting to become a blur. I'm getting getting close to them actually eventually leaving the house. I mean, it's a crazy experience having kids. What about you, Sophia? Do you have children of your own?
Yes. I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. Yeah.
So you're right behind me.
Yeah, right behind you. I've been with my husband for 15 years, 11 married. And yeah, so a lot of it for me, since I focused this passion as a career, but also, of course, personally, a lot of my focus in my personal life is my relationships, both, of course, my family, but we foster a lot of relationships with other family friends, like get-togethers, going to fun places together. I also really enjoy date nights with my husband. That's definitely something that I think everybody should invest in when you're in a long-term relationship, right? So that's a little bit about me outside of work.
You mentioned you're from Argentina. When did you come? When did you come to the U.S.? Like when you were a child, or how long ago?
Yeah, I was nearly 16, a month away from being 16.
So my wife is from Peru, and she moved over here when she was, I think, around 18. So similar trajectories there. What would be, I guess, one thing that you'd like for our listeners to know about your business?
Yeah. As a practice, what makes us stand out is that we focus a lot on relationships. Like I mentioned, we're our marriage and family therapists, which is something special to connect to when you are in need of those services. So a professional that specializes in that exact need. And all of the training, even in the primary and secondary specialties that we have, is focused on evidence and research-based approaches, right? Because we are highly committed to the idea of seeking change, right? At times, people think of counseling as venting sessions, just getting it out. While getting it out is, of course, part of it and important, it's not the only focus. It's how do we get to being from here to where you want to be, right? Like, what's the picture that you want to have? So as such, we focus on providing evidence and research-based approaches so that those that can be achieved, right? We are very passionate and committed in the mission of helping people transform their lives and relationships. So the care is there to provide that. We have people that speak Spanish. So for those that feel more comfortable in their native language. And like I said before, also in person and virtually, to make it easy for everybody, and also to provide access to those that don't live nearby as much.
Yeah, venting and getting it all out is very important. But one of the things that I've come to realize that I have to be very careful about how often I do that, because it could be a slippery slope between venting and getting it out, and then allowing yourself to ruminate and consume yourself by all the problems, and then you start telling yourself the wrong stories. So there's a time and a place for everything, and I think that's why it's important to work with a professional when it comes to counseling, and not just constantly call your friends and family and vomit on them about your day and all the problems that you have. Again, there's some utility in doing that, but it can happen too frequently. I've experienced that when I'm in a bad place. I find myself calling everybody and complaining, and then all of a sudden the people that were picking up the phone before, they stop picking up the phone, and you wonder why. It's because all you do is call and complain. So yeah, very, very important to speak with people that can offer objective spins on what's going on in your world, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What would be the best way to reach you guys? How can our listeners learn more? For anyone out there that would like to seek help, that is having some issues, what's the best way to connect with you guys?
Well, the first place I would say is our website. It's www.infinitetherapeuticsservices.com, just the name of our business. We also have a pretty active Instagram account. The handle of our Instagram account is transforming_relationships. And then, of course, you can always give us a call at 954-903-1676, where we are happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Excellent. We will, of course, drop a link down in the description below to all of your contact information. So for anyone out there that is interested in reaching you, they will know how to do so. Sofia, thanks so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I really appreciate it.
Happy to have you. And thanks, as always, to our listeners for tuning in to learn more about our great community and the businesses that serve us. Everyone, take care and have a wonderful day. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast, Cooper City. To nominate your favorite local business to be featured on the show, go to gnpcoopercity.com. That's gnpcoopercity.com, or call 954-231-3170.